The Access to Financial Services 2023 survey shows us that Nigeria is going digital fast. In 2023, 45% of adult Nigerians use digital financial services up from the Access to Financial Services 2023 survey shows us that Nigeria is going digital fast. In 2023, 45% of adult Nigerians. All this progress, something critical is missing: protection. Here's what the A2S use digital financial services up from the Access to Financial Services 2023 survey shows us that Nigeria is going digital fast. In 2023, 45% of adult Nigerians. All this progress, something critical is missing: protection. Here's what the A2S use digital financial services up from the Access to Financial.
Hi, Chinasa. Please, someone confirm you can hear me.
Hi, Emmanuel. Good morning. We can hear you.
Okay,
Can
all right.
see
Good
you.
morning. All
Good
right.
morning.
Welcome, everybody. Sorry, I think my lighting is a bit poor here. All right, welcome everyone to today's inaugural virtual consumer protection town hall with our regulators and our consumer advocacy group. I'll walk you quickly through what we are expecting and what this is really all about. So the Virtual Consumer Protection Town Hall is a forum that EFINA and in conjunction with the panelists that you will be seeing here have put together so that we can create seamless interactive platform between the regulator and the consumer. But we're not just going to speak to only the regulator and the consumer, because we also understand that this is an ecosystem that involves multiple actors. So there is an advocacy, consumer advocacy or advocate in our midst, a foundation that will also, balance the issues between the regulator, the financial service provider, and, the consumer. Because of that experience. Then we also have a financial service provider. All of this will be introduced to you by my esteemed moderator, who I will welcome very soon. At the end of the day, what we really want to achieve is that every Nigerian financial service consumer has opportunity to engage when they feel that the services they have paid for, they haven't gotten that value. And at the end of the day, we want to build trust in Nigeria's financial service ecosystem. We want to build trust, in the regulator. I also want to hold the FSPs, financial service providers, accountable so that they are able, to respond to the needs of the Nigerians, every Nigerian who pay money to use financial services. So without much ado, ladies and gentlemen, I will quickly run you through what the agenda look like before I bring in my moderator. So in terms of welcome and content setting, I have done justice to this very snappily. After this, we'll do a teaser and my moderator will tell whether this is happening right now or later. A short poll about how much do we know about consumer protection. Like I said, she will sequence this. She might have changed it, but because she understands the atmosphere and the audience more than I do from a moderation point of view. Then we will go into discussion. Some of you had sent questions ahead. We would like the questions to be posed before the regulators and the panelists so that we can discuss and provide answers. Because it is not one-way traffic, we also open the platform so that everyone who did not send questions ahead or who need more clarifications can ask questions, and that is the interactive live Q&A session. After this, we'll do a short poll to see whether what we have done here have any impact or not in terms of what has changed. So that's supposed to be changed, about your knowledge of consumer protection. Then, of course, we'll come back and tell you the things that we have next for you going forward in terms of protecting the Nigerian financial service consumer and also balancing consumer protection with business sustainability. So without wasting your time, please permit me to welcome my distinguished moderator for the day, no other person than Chinasa Collins, who leads advocacy and communications at EFINA. Don't worry, please just Google her up. I'm not doing justice to the introduction, but she's worth more than what's on the slide. Chinasa, please, it's a pleasure to have you. The floor is all yours.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel, and good morning to all our guests and a very esteemed audience. It's an honor and pleasure to be moderating this very interesting session. It's the inaugural one for us at EFINA, and we hope to do many more. As Emmanuel has done justice to setting the context, it's essentially a session for us to have different people ask questions that you've been asking people you don't have answers to. We have the right people here to address some of those concerns, especially in your interactions with financial services in Nigeria. But before I introduce my esteemed panelists, I'd like to highlight a couple of things. First is that as we continue to do these town halls, our hope at EFINA is that by the end of these town halls, it's not just a webinar, it's not just a convening, but something that actually allows people to have better information about the financial services they enjoy so that they're able to transact safely and know what to do when they land in an unsavory situation. I'll give an example. A couple of months ago, my mom called me and said her account had been debited and she didn't understand what the debit was. The narration wasn't clear. And obviously calling me because she knows that I work in the financial services space. And to be honest with you, even I didn't know exactly what to do or who to speak to. I was probably going to just leverage my network and ask to give a sense of what had happened and maybe get a solution to that. And what am I saying? A lot of us find ourselves in these situations where it's not very clear what we're supposed to do when we find ourselves in these funny transactional situations. And what we end up doing is the Nigeria way of talking to someone that you know in the system. And I'm not sure that that's the most effective way. It's better to have information that everybody generally has access to. And that's the essence of these conversations where people are better equipped with information and know what to do at such times. So without further ado, and to be a good steward of time, I would like to constitute the panelists as Emmanuel has shared the agenda flow. So I'll invite them up. But these panelists are very experienced. They don't need any introductions, to be honest, but for the purposes of this conversation, I will give a quick highlights of their profiles just so you know who is here, and you can also direct your questions during the Q&A. So coming up first is Dr. Aisha Isa Olatinwo. She is the Director of the Consumer Protection and Financial Inclusion Department, the Central Bank of Nigeria. And she leads the design and implementation of strategic frameworks that promotes financial sector stability, robust consumer protection, and inclusive access to financial services nationwide. Please welcome Dr. Aisha Isa Olatinwo. Okay. Dr. Aisha, are you here with us?
Thank you so very much. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Happy to be here.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And in no particular order, and I'm not playing favoritism. I'm going to invite the next female on the panel, Mrs. Shola Salako Ajulo. She's a seasoned consumer rights advocate and the founder and president of the Consumer Advocacy Foundation of Nigeria, CAFON. And through CAFON, she has, on other strategic platforms, she has led high impact campaigns on issues ranging from bank charges to telecoms, e-commerce, and financial fraud. Welcome, Mrs. Shola Salako. Ma'am, are you here? Should I just say a quick? Ms. Salako, are you here? Okay, I will not
Hello.
take more time. I know she joined a few minutes. Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am, I can hear you.
Okay, I think I was
And I
trying
can
to
see
check.
you.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And next up on the panel would be Mrs. Boladale Adeyinka. She's currently the Director of Surveillance and Investigation at the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, FCCPC. She leads strategic market surveillance, enforcement operations, and investigations into violations of consumer rights across Nigeria. Welcome, Mrs. Boladale Adeyinka. Are you here with us?
She's trying to join. I understand she has some technical difficulties, but let's give her some minutes.
That's fine. I'll just go on to invite.
Yes.
So that's all, I guess, actually. No, I have a gentleman and I apologize. No, the only gentleman amongst these women. So Mr. Adeyemi Salisu, who is a seasoned digital payment business and digital investments at Sterling Bank. And beyond his banking role, he is the provost of the CEBIH, also called CB, the academy. And he's basically in that capacity running the arm of the committee of the e-business industry, which is basically the head of the academy at CB. And he helps shape industry-wide training through leadership on digital finance, inclusive payments, and innovation. Welcome, Mr. Adeyemi Salisu.
Good morning. Thank you very much, Chinansa. And good morning, everyone. I'm also here representing the chairman
Fantastic.
of CB.
Good morning.
Yeah, Laulu Ajibade Olawale.
Fantastic. You're most welcome. Thank you. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Okay, just in the interest of time and knowing that we have just an hour and a half for this entire session and there's a lot to cover, I would like to just go ahead and invite Dr. Aisha Isalatinwo to give her opening remarks very briefly so that we can invite the other discussants as well to do a few remarks on the work that they do before we go into the Q&A. So Dr. Aisha, please come up to give your...
Thank you so very much. Good morning once again, and thank you for the opportunity to speak and meet with other discussants in the panel. Like you mentioned, I'm the Director of Consumer Protection and Financial Inclusion Department of the Central Bank. Prior to this year, precisely in March, the financial inclusion activities or function were merged with consumer protection. And I believe it's not a wrong decision. Based on the example you gave, we bring people into the financial system and they're struggling to seek support when there is a drop-off in transactions or even as simple as that inquiries that your mom needed, and I will apologize for that and let you know things that we have put in place. So good morning again, distinguished participants, colleagues and partners. It is my privilege to welcome you all to this Consumer Protection Virtual Town Hall engagement. Theme, Ask the Regulator. The session is apt, timely, and I believe is a significant one for all of us. Again, given the rapid transformation of the Nigerian financial landscape, which even extend beyond the Nigerian financial landscape. As you can see, even the telecommunication sector and the banking sector are so interwoven these days that sometimes consumer finds it very hard to know who to lodge their complaint with. So it is very important that we continuously safeguard consumers' trust. I would like to also mention the state of consumer protection in Nigeria. First, the Financial Consumer Protection refer to laws, institutions, practices, and policies that safeguard consumer rights and also ensure fairness in provision of financial products and services. So for that reason, the central bank has dedicated an entire department to guide the industry towards the path of ensuring that there is a 24/7 help desk where consumer can seek support, get information either for financial touch point or to remediate any issues that they face. The advancement in financial technology has also made it very necessary. For consumer of banks with smartphones, I think it is mandatory for banks to include this functional role in the app. But our concern is mainly the vulnerable consumers who do not have access to internet or are also use feature phones, which makes it necessary for them to have to physically visit their financial institutions when they are faced with challenges. And a life example could be you try to top up airtime of 200 naira and it failed. So you haven't seen your 200 naira reverse and you don't have the airtime for 200. The question now is, at what cost would you, what cost to be incurred for you to move from where you are to your financial institution to resolve all of this? Again, on that, we're working with the NCC to have an industry short code where consumer can relate with their financial institutions from anywhere, anytime, either via internet or without internet. We have also streamlined and also ensure that we partner with banks so that we're also seen as industry protection, because we've always had this battle with banks saying that 100% of time we're on the side of the consumer. But we like to give that assurance that what we're doing is in interest of financial system stability. So where consumers are wrong, we let them know, but because we need to provide and encourage them into the system, we ensure that we carry out consumer education and also do a lot on financial literacy to let them know their right, their responsibility, their duty in ensuring that they secure their financial details. And I'm sure during the course of our question and answer session, we will be providing so much of this information, especially where consumers do updates on their phone using public Wi-Fi. It is important to know that there is no free lunch even in Freetown. So the use of your core banking app in a general or open space, it's actually very dangerous because it is not a secured network. I think so much engagement will be done, but I would like to also announce that we have seen 94% month-on-month timely resolution of consumer issues. The foresight that we're focused on is how do we even ensure that consumers do not have any issue? I know that cannot be possible. At least there should be some 5% error margin, but where there are issues, how timely can they reach their institution, or how comfortable an assurance that they have that, oh, the problem will be resolved. And I think I'll discuss and take details of that during the session. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you so much, Dr. Aisha, for that very reassuring opening remark, and also reassuring us that, consumers are front and center to the CBN, And as they interact with financial services, it's definitely at the top of your agenda, and making sure there are frameworks and interventions and all the necessary collaborations and conversations that need to be had to make sure that the consumer is 95% happy. So thank you very much. And so in the next three minutes, I'd like to invite the other panelists to just share very quickly from their perspective or from their experience and the work that they're doing, the consumer protection landscape and what their organizations are doing to advance consumer protection in Nigeria. So first up, I would like to invite Mrs. Shola Salako Ajolo from CAFON.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, I can hear you loud and
Okay,
clear.
thank you very much. And I want to thank Dr. Aisha Talatunwo for that reassuring, just like you said, it was a very reassuring opening comments. Having worked in this space for more than 2 decades, and I think what actually launched our NGO was actually a lot around the financial services, consumer issues back in the early 2000s. It is reassuring to hear central bank pay this much attention to consumer issues, which have been evolving over time. At CAFON, our function is very simple. We are a non-governmental organization. We were set up because at the time when we were set up, Nigerian consumers didn't have a voice in the financial sector, and it was at the turn of a financial how do you call it? The financial sector has been evolving over time. So those periods were really difficult. That was when we're moving into digital banking, and there was not enough information, and consumers were being hit. We have come a long way since then. There's been a lot of improvements. One should acknowledge that. A lot more effort has been made to enlighten consumers about their rights in the banking sector, but there's still a lot of gaps. And our role is to highlight those gaps with the regulators, as well as enlighten consumers on what they need to do to be able to protect themselves, number one, and ensure that they get value for money and benefits. I have quite a lot of issues with the regulators. I'm not a regulator, so I can speak to the regulator and I can speak to the consumer. We have a lot of issues that we would like the regulators to pay more attention to. From our experience with a lot of consumers, the challenge that Nigerian consumers have is that they have a sense of the fact that there's nobody who's looking out for them. So the regulator is seen more to be on the side of the service provider most of the time. I'm surprised to hear Dr. Aisha saying the service providers feel that central bank is always on the side of the bank of the consumer. From the consumer perspective, they don't even think the central bank is available to them. They don't think the central bank is aware of them. So I'm also here to learn, not just to share, but to also learn what are the new things that is being introduced by central bank, so that we can take that back to our consumers who we have built over the period that we've been in active service of consumer protection, to be able to help them understand what they need. Because whenever people run into trouble, like Chinasa said, you are the first person they call. I'm in this trouble, what do I do? So I also have to be able to find out where exactly should they go. And many times, like Chinasa also pointed out, we lean on the personal contacts that you have. Over time, I've lost contact with a whole lot of people in the system. So now I'm at the point where when people call me, even I don't know what is available and who next to call. So by today, I'm hoping that we would have been able to lay this foundation so that we at CAFON can have the accurate, direction that we can give to consumers when they call us. If they have any particular problem, we know exactly where to send them to. And we know that when they follow that path, they will get some form of redress. So I'm looking forward to being better enlightened, and also to be able to share from a few of the things that we know and what we think can help to move the conversation.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Salako, for sharing some of the great work that you're doing at CAFON and for continuing to represent the voice of the consumers. It aligns with our work at EFINA because at the end of the day, financial inclusion is about the people that we seek to support and lift out of poverty. So it's very important that they have the right platforms and they have people who represent their voices where they can't be in rooms where they can't be in. So the next person I'd like to invite to share insights of the great work that they're doing and how they're advancing consumer protection within the financial services space is Mr. Adeyemi Salisu, who's representing the chairman of CB. Mr. Salisu, so that's where we're within the time allotted for the session. Thank you.
No problem. I'll try and keep it as short as possible. And I would like to say good morning again to my fellow discussants. I'm happy the direction at which this panel session is going, or this forum rather. So I would like to start by talking about CB, because it's also important that we clarify what CB really does. CB is an acronym that stands for the Committee of E-Business Industry Heads. And CB is that unified voice of banks and payment leaders that are jointly driving the growth of digital and inclusive finance in Nigeria. And what you find CB doing in almost a decade is you see CB working with regulators, industry key stakeholders to achieve three major things. First of all is you see CB trying to help shape policies. I mean, we work very closely with the regulator, and good enough CBN is here. You also see CB helping to deepen collaboration, because don't forget that at CB, you have representative banks. And what that means is that we leverage on that, our unison, that bond as a body, to be able to get things done and collaborate and dialogue better. And then lastly, you also see CB helping out with advancing innovation, throughout the payment ecosystem. And another thing that is important that I would like to tie CB to consumer protection is at CB, we have ExCos, right? And each of these ExCos desk, if you look at them critically, they were created because of the last mile. Meaning at the end of the day, when the ExCos of CB are doing their work that has been delegated to them, consumer protection needs to happen. You need to be able to protect those customers. At CB, consumer protection for us is not what I will say, how will I put it? Consumer protection is not reactive, it's actually proactive. So CB, from the onset, works with regulators, trying to ensure that when policies are being shaped, the customer is in mind. With our relationship with all the banks, we pull everybody together in the same room. And at the end of the day, we're able to agree on things like, the best minimum acceptable standards that could go into whatever e-banking products that every bank or, big player in the financial payment industry is doing. And that has helped in so many ways. Now you see that every bank makes sure that they adhere to like the 72-hour dispute resolution SLA. I mean, you see that happening a lot of times. You also see that when it comes to things around USSD, because CB is also particular about pricing and fairness to the customer. I mean, CB was very instrumental in ensuring that, we moved to end user billing after a long time. What that simply means is that now banks don't just charge the consumers whatever they are being charged by the telcos. What happens now is that the consumers are only being charged for what they use, because initially there were reconciliation issues between the banks and the telco providers. So they just dump whatever they are being charged to the consumer, but that has changed, and that's a major milestone achievement in the industry. And maybe I'll just wrap it up with things around, what we do around fraud as well, because for us, we understand that trust, is the foundation of anything that has to do with digital payments. If there is no trust, no matter how fantastic your e-banking product is for a consumer, that product, won't scale. So we are also a convener of NEFF, which is the Nigeria Electronic Fraud Forum, which is where we bring in, again, because CB is very powerful across bank, we bring in, head of audits, we bring in compliance teams, we bring in fraud teams, we bring in operations team, and we put everybody in the room and we discuss real issues around fraud that are affecting the customer. And at the end of the day, we come up with communiques that we're able to use, to recommend to regulators and other industry players so that at the end of the day, the customer is protected. And I mean, I won't want to end this, opening statement by saying that advocacy is also important to us, digital literacy. That's why we empower the industry frontline staff through our CB Academy, because we know that the more the information they have on how to treat customers, the better we know that consumer protection will happen. And I think that will be it for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Salisu, and the great work that you're doing at CB. I think that we know from our research at EFINA that with the advancements of financial inclusion through digital innovation, there's an increasing need to obviously have a collective like yours who are at the helm of affairs of this innovation to weigh in and ensure that the consumer's interest and their transactions are protected. So thank you. And the last person on the panel who is now here, Mrs. Boladale Adeyinka from FCCPC. I'd just like to invite her if she's able to. I don't see her video. Okay, so I don't think FCCPC is here or she's able to speak, but I see that she's joined. But so just to steward time respectfully, I will just like to go on to the next session. But before I go, my colleagues are telling me there's a poll. Emmanuel, are we doing the poll now or should we just go into the questions and answers?
Yeah, please, we're going ahead. Tunji, please, can you give us the poll quickly?
Okay.
Can the panelists also participate in the poll?
Unfortunately,
Oh, no, you cannot vote.
not,
I can see
ma.
that now.
Unfortunately, the host and
panel.
panelists cannot vote.
Okay. We are consumers too, Sha. We can't hear anything. Oh.
Emmanuel, We're not, are we done? Do we have the results?
Yes. Chinasa, can you view the results?
I
People are
can't
still
see.
voting, but we can.
Okay, but
So
how many minutes do we have for people to vote?
we can
Okay, now
close
I
it
see the
now.
results.
Yeah, we can close. So you can
Okay,
speak to the results. Yeah.
fantastic. Okay, so I'll just go through the results very quickly. To the first question, how aware are you of your rights as a financial services consumer? 48% say very aware, interestingly. 45% say somewhat aware and are somewhat very aware. Very interesting. The second question is, if you have a complaint, do you know the steps for lodging and escalating complaints? 66% say yes. 30% say not really. I think I'm in the 30% mark. And 4% say not at all. Then there were 3 questions. Okay, I see just the responses to these 2 questions. Okay, very interesting stats because as we were building up to this event, what we did was
Chinasa,
to
sorry,
ask people to register and send in their questions. And we
Hi,
had
Chinasa.
yeah.
So sorry, I wanted to
Yes.
interrupt you. There's the third question is very interesting, which is which issue have you experienced in the past 12 months? And failed transaction accounted for 61%, fraud 6%, hidden charges 18%, and poor customer service 15%. Then the last one was how long did it take the transactions to be reversed? Just 26% within 24 hours, 54% said 24 to 48 hours, 6% said the transaction were never reversed, and 14% said they don't even remember anymore because it was a long process. Yeah, that's all.
Okay, if you permit me to talk, I think honestly, this voting sincerely represent what it is. We see a lot of failed transactions. Again, like I said in my opening remarks, there is a lot of cross carpeting between the banking sector and the communication sector. So you will find out that if you're using your app, it's dependent on your network. If you're using your internet, it's dependent on network because it's your network that is providing the data or access to the internet. So these are the reasons, and I will commend the NCC. They are really working with the telcos to ensure that we have a very perfect connectivity. Again, some are also beyond them. Sometimes security issues, people going in to vandalize their equipment because they do not want them to track their calls and so on and so forth. But together with NCC and the ONSA, Office of the National Security Advisor, we are really working at very high level to ensure that we minimize this. But again, you can see the support. 24 hours reversal means acquirer initiated reversal. So it means then that at the time the transaction failed, the other bank or your bank has put in place technology to see that the transaction was not successful. And we, in addition to this, we have also worked on the framework with the communication sector to also do the same for failed transaction on airtime purchase, where there will be a signal code to determine the status of transaction. So when there is a failure, immediately the customer get a reversal. But sometimes the delayed connectivity also makes it very difficult for reversal to happen immediately. So to avoid double reversing, the bank or the institution concerned will have to wait until after settlement. And settlement is T+1. So that's explain why you don't get it reversed until after 48 hours, which is the reason you're seeing that 54%. 54 plus 26 looks good, but would ensure that we'll continuously improve on this. In fact, I had to take a snapshot to see what we can do better to reduce failed transactions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Latimore, for responding to those stats, especially the one around fraud. I think what was interesting and jarring to see was the number of percentage of people that say that they are aware of their rights and know what to do. And I see comments from our CEO saying that this is an elite audience. I'm inclined to agree with her. But so to go into the
I agree with
Q&A
that too.
session. Thank you, Ms. Sadako. Okay, so to go into the Q&A, as I was saying earlier, when we were building up to this event, what we had done was ask people to send in their questions, and we received a whole lot of questions, like a plethora. To be honest, not questions that we can cover here just because the limited time that we have. So what we've tried to do is to distill and prioritize, and other questions may be answered in like subsequent initiatives after this that allows people to see the answers to their questions as well. And so I will start to go through the Q&A. We have about half an hour for this session before we can go into the live Q&A as well, so that our audience can also ask their questions if it hasn't been addressed from the list of Q&As that we have. So first up, and this is something that I believe Dr. Olatinwo made reference to, is from the financial services provider sector. And the category is around customer services and complaints. The question is, why does the regulator always support the customer in any bank or customer disputes? And this would go to the central bank. That's Dr. Olatinwo, but happy to have the other discussants weigh in if you have any comments or if there are any questions that you also want to clarify from the regulator. So this question is, why does the regulator always support the customer in any bank or customer disputes? So Dr. Olatinwo, over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. And again, I think I introduced that I touched on that yes, we are Consumer Protection Department, but the major focus is financial system stability. So why the belief is that it's only the complaints that will escalate to the banks for resolution that gets seen. But at our level, we also return some complaints to the customer for lack of, what do I call it now? Lack of or obvious, clear disclosure of their own financial information, because you even see where a customer says, I got on the Instagram and I bought something, but the person gave me a wrong one. Of course, we can't bill a bank for that. But if a customer says, I paid, beneficiary didn't receive, and I have been debited, of course, we have to escalate it, and the customer provide evidence, because the first level is to reach your bank. But of course, where a customer reach the CBN first, we also intervene and also advise customer that in future reach your bank. So at no time do we give preference to anyone. We're just fair and equitable. We provide that equitable listening platform for everyone. And there are regulations. So where any party feels unsatisfactorily treated, please let them re-escalate, and we can provide the reason. In fairness, we do not veto because of our power. We veto based on evidence before us. And we give assurance that it is in the interest of all the parties. So no preference to any party, but fair and full disclosure and equity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Latimore, and thank you for being fair and not taking the side of any particular actor. It's basically trying to be just and fair. So thank you. I see that Mrs. Boladale Adeyinka of FCCPC is here now. If I can just have her say a quick hello so that I'm sure that we can hear her.
Mrs. Hello, Boladale, everyone.
Hello, ma'am. Good morning.
Yes, I'm here.
Good morning.
Hello.
Fantastic. Can you hear me?
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, ma'am. I can hear you, but it seems like there's a delay. Can you hear me?
Trying to connect. I can hear you. Can you hear me? It's been quite challenging with the network, but I'm glad to be here. I can hear you.
Thank you, ma'am. I can hear you, but I think there's a delay.
Okay.
Okay, but it sounds better.
A bit of network issue here.
Yes, apologies for that. Okay. So I think that the first question that was posed to the CBN also could be posed to you as well. I don't know if you have any comments on that. And it's around the regulator always taking the side. And as a regulator as well, there's a position that the regulator always takes the side of the consumer. I personally, I use FCCPC to not, well, say threaten people. I've had situations where I've made payments for something and then the vendor is telling me it'll take 10 days to reverse. And I'm like, if you received the money, why can't you pay me back my money? I'm going to report you to FCCPC, and then they send it back in like the next day or 2 days after. So do you have any comments on that question about taking the side of the consumer? Okay, I still think Mrs. Adinka has issues with her
Or do you
network.
want to, or maybe she can type out if
Very much.
voice is cracking, maybe she can type out.
Okay. Ms. Adinka, can you please type out your responses or comments if the network is not cooperating? It doesn't appear
I'm actually
to be.
always excited, if the mention of FCCPC will correct the behavior. I think it's because it speaks to the fact that hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, but there's a delay. So I'm wondering if it would be, okay, so we've lost her. Okay, so I'll just move on to the next question whilst Mrs. Adinka sorts out internet connectivity.
I'd like to make more comments on
Okay,
the
please go ahead,
question that was posed to Dr. Latmo.
Please go ahead.
And I referred to it in my opening statement. Depending on who you're talking to, a whole lot of consumers from our feedback do not feel that CBN is taking the side of the consumer. Many times people are frustrated because access to the channels to complain, even all the way to CBN, are not very clear. And when they are there, they are not as responsive. And I understand why that could be. And what I think when we're looking at solutions is to find ways to minimize what is escalated to CBN, because CBN is responsible for the whole nation. And there are over 90 million, last time I checked, there was about 96 million accounts in Nigeria. I'm sure it's more than that by now. You can't expect everybody's, I'm not happy with my bank or the response they're giving me, to all go to CBN. How many can CBN deal with? So there are a lot of consumers who have escalated their issues to CBN, maybe still locked up in their email pile because there's so much of it. So it would be wonderful for us to find a way to ensure that there is almost like maybe an ombudsman or somebody who is in between the banks, from escalating to the banks before you get to CBN. If we can provide some kind of structure that can take away a whole lot of those things, so that it is only the really technical and tedious issues that will get to the CBN CPD desk, and they can quickly be able to respond to that. But right now, the transaction of 200 naira fails, and I talk to my bank, they are not active. Am I going to escalate that to CBN? So those are the areas where consumers kind of lose confidence and trust in the fact that the system can respond to them. So we have to find a way around that. That's what I would like to add to that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Ajula. And so seeing that we're still with you, I will just come to this next question for you to respond to first. And it's, what should a customer do when the cost of a court order to recall funds is higher than the funds themselves? How can regulation make this more affordable for consumers? So I'd like you to respond first and then invite the regulator to also weigh in. If you like to take the question
from our
again.
perspective as advocates, I get the question.
Okay.
from our perspective as advocates, and I think we've been talking about this for a long time, the onus of determining the legality of reversal in a fraud situation should not be put on the consumer. If the consumer can show proof that there's been a transaction or there's been fraud or there's been some transaction failure on their account, getting me to, I made a wrong transaction. Maybe I mistakenly transferred money to somebody's account. I can show you proof that I did transfer that money to the account. That was where the work that I didn't want to do. Telling me to go and look for a bank, for a court order before a bank can reverse it. I think that's a very tedious regulation that needs to be reviewed. What actually is missing in our system, which is available in other more developed sectors or economies, is a kind of insurance, okay, fraud insurance, whereby a bank can immediately take a decision to reverse any reported fraud, okay, which would immediately make the consumer get a return on their funds based on that report. But the bank can now follow through at the back end to ensure that they investigate to the point where they realize that, yes, it was truly a fraud. And if it was not a fraud, then that consumer becomes a suspect. And you can now hold that person. But when you now say you are trying to err on the side of caution, and you make all of us have to go through the process of going to a court to get whatever before you can transfer, return the transfer of 5,000 or 10,000 naira. That is too much stress on the consumer, and it does not build trust. I've run accounts in the US. If there's any transaction that was paid in my account that I didn't approve or I don't understand, and I just send them a note, this transaction I didn't approve it, and within 48 hours, they refund that money. But immediately they will refund you, will tell you, we're going to investigate this. If we find that your report is fraudulent, then we will prosecute you. I think if we reverse it that way, we will be able to help consumers feel more confident in assurance that if I do anything if anything happens to my account that should not have happened, I get redress immediately. Making me go through that process, it's still a lot of, which is why a lot of consumers walk away from it. And when they walk away from it, they lose confidence in the system. So for us to build that confidence in the system, we need to introduce some kind of fraud insurance is the best way I can call it. If we have that, then the bank is assured that they are not going to be wasting money or giving money out to anybody, but they must follow through on that investigation to ensure that the report was actually accurate. That's what I would like to contribute.
Thank you very much, Mr. Salako. A lot of our audience are agreeing with you that the burden of proof should not be with the customer. So I'd like to hear from the regulator their reaction to some of your suggestions or recommendations. So Dr. Latin would like to hear from you.
Thank you. I think I quite agree with her. We're all consumers of the financial system, and again, there is law relating to banking, there is practice of banking. And I also hear her say banks likes to err on the side of caution. It's not even about that. It's about the damages that can come if you reverse without authority of the owners. And I love the example you relate to US. In fairness, in some areas we're doing well. I bought something at KFC. It took 3 months to return my money. Failed transaction, I was debited, I didn't get value, but I used another card to pay so as to show that I've actually paid. And it took KFC almost 3 months to return my money. That doesn't happen in Nigeria. But so areas we have done well, we say well done to ourselves, but areas that need improvement, we will improve. And I would like to give you assurance that we have a regulation on erroneous transfer. So where a customer has provided evidence that I want to transfer to account ABC, but I wrongly transfer to DBD, we put that liability on the customer if it turned out to be false. So immediately the ABC account is contacted and given a particular hours to reply, and the PND can apply to that account immediately so that that money is not taken out. And if the ABC account will respond that, yes, I don't know the sender, please return. It's easier for the bank. But where the ABC account is saying, no, the money belongs to me, it's a tough one for the bank to remove that money. Notwithstanding, I think the ombudsman will come a long way because it's a sitting of financial institution, legal team, and making it a regulation of at what point should reversal happen without tampering on anybody's right. Again, when we fully have a final national identity where I am who I am across all sectors, banking, insurance, communication, and I misbehave, I can be taken out across those sectors. What we have now is you misbehave in one sector, you go to another sector and you continue to transact. So, which is the reason we are also hampered, or we have that limitation of institutionalizing what you describe from the other jurisdiction. But I'm happy the BVN, the information is being merged with NIMSI, and hopefully if the old data is cleaned up, you will be who you are across the sectors, and we can always take out the bad actor, and this will limit misbehavior. So thank you so very much. I think it was well said, well presented, and for the other areas we haven't considered, I have noted them and will take them on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for taking notes of some of those recommendations and for your expert response to her comments. I will like to ask if Mr. Salisu has any comments on that question, or if I can move on to the next one.
I think it's well wrapped up. No questions from me. I'm also happy that Dr. Aisha was able to, take some feedback. Well done.
Absolutely. Okay. So the next question will
Sorry, before we go to the
Mr.
next, I think the areas I didn't cover was the insurance. Yes, we approach insurance sector. Unfortunately, the cost of the premium far outweigh even the amount in loss over the years. And again, it is because we are also rated as top risk, because anyone can call, I'm not saying we don't have good morale, we're not honest people, we are, but you still have some flip other side from some people, and insurance premium is so massive that it's better to even create a sinking fund in the banking sector to remediate some of this. Either up or down, we're working together to see how best we can manage and remediate the situation.
Dr. Aisha,
thank you. Ma?
Can I just pick on what you just said about this thing? I understand the cost, the cost of premiums for this insurance, but I am aware that because I've done, I currently still work with the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Tribunal, by the way, but my term is going out. That's why I'm not paying so much attention. And I know that we've done a case where there was an issue with network transactions. And one of the things that we found out was that in the banking system, you can correct me if I'm wrong, there is a sinking fund that has to do with failed transactions that exists, that a whole lot of consumers are not aware of it. And nothing is done to give the consumer benefit for that kind of sinking fund. Why don't we have that kind of sinking fund, such that even if it is 1 naira or 50 kobo that you are taking out of all your transaction charges, which is the lots, and is being put in this sinking fund with the amount of transactions that goes on every day in the banking sector, we would be able to develop a pool from which banks can safely refund maybe a certain limit. Maybe if somebody says, I mistakenly sent 20,000 or 10,000, it can be immediately reversed, which is the bulk of what is being mistakenly transacted, by the way. If somebody is transacting more than that, then maybe you put a second level of confirmation and checks. But if we can quickly reverse a whole lot of these, that the banks can pay off even without confirming whether that is a whatever or not, it helps to build the confidence in the system so that we can at least say, okay, when it gets beyond a particular threshold, then there must be second level checks, third level checks, and all that. But when you subject every kobo to the multiple level checks, we are losing more than what we're gaining. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Ajala. I would agree with you. I think that there's a need to consider some sort of tiered escalation process where some values of money would not be subjected to that sort of scrutiny. I don't know if Dr. Aisha wants to respond to that, or we will leave it there and
No, it's noted. It's just that
noted.
any charge to the customer's account will be seen as another charge. And even if it's 5 naira, 10 naira, honestly, there's going to be a noise. So if there's going to be sinking fund from our part, it will have to be a profit cut from the banks, not from the consumer. So I know we tried working on that. I don't know if you know that we had I can't really remember the name of the committee. We had all sectors, even the law enforcement agencies, and we were trying to do similar for fraud, so as to reduce the pain of people who lose money via fraud. But it just don't work. But we can reintroduce. But like I said, other comments I've taken note, tiered escalation, very important. I know some banks do that, but it's because of the profile of customers that they keep. But we can encourage others to do so too. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, ma'am. So my next question, I'll come to you, Mr. Salisu. And the question is, what should one do if the merchants ask them to go to their bank for a failed but debited transaction, and the bank confirms that the transaction was successful and that the customer should return to the merchant, especially when the transaction happened in another city while the customer was on a trip but has now returned to a different city other than where the transaction happened? Please let me know if you'd like me to take that again, but I guess you get the gist.
No, it's well understood.
I
So,
well
okay, yeah,
understood.
please take it, Mr. DM.
Okay, I'll
So
just say
to CD first? Yes,
what
please.
I know, and then I believe that Madam Aisha can also, add one or two things. So, I mean, looking at it from the electronic banking side, and if we tie that to the CBN regulations or guidelines, when you're talking about disputes and all of that, first of all, a customer does not have any business dealing with their merchants, right, when it comes to disputes. I mean, the way it's been done, the flow is clear. The business is between the two banks, the acquiring bank and the issuing bank, or what we also, call the payer bank. So in this specific scenario, first of all, I mean, whoever that customer is, I really identify, with the pain, and apologies for what that consumer has gone through. But what should have been done is the bank's customers should not be telling that customers to go back to the merchants. And to even make matters worse, this is happening in another city. Are you now saying that that consumer should travel? So I think we just have to say the truth. This is a town hall, so we don't have to, mince what that bank didn't do the right thing. Once that customer complained that I had a failed transaction, I've been debited. If the bank is telling the customer that this transaction is successful, then lodge a complaint, and then we will talk to the other bank, and the other bank will reach out to that merchant. I think the SLA is 72 hours or something like that. And at the end of the day, the customer, if truly it was a failed transaction and did not get value from that merchant, the belief is that the customer's bank should, of course, reverse that money. So for me, I think the emphasis here is that banks should also know the right thing to do at every point in time. Don't ever send a customer back to the merchant. It has to be between the two banks. And again, regulation already states it that for every dispute, it is clear. Let the two banks engage each other and resolve so that the consumer can be happy. I think I'll leave it there and I'll allow Dr. Aisha to also add anything.
Thank you very much, Mr. Adeyemi. Honestly, that's just what it is. Both the issuing bank, which is the complainant bank, and the acquiring bank, which is the bank of the merchant, are the person who can see the actual issue and remediate. But the issue oftentimes when we see when there is a failed transaction, please, buyers should insist on collecting the transaction journal. That's that receipt that they give to you. From anywhere you are, you can scan and send to your bank. What that makes them see is to see the acquiring bank, the merchant, so they can know who to shoot or transfer the request to. However, the good news is that with the introduction or the phasing out of analog POS, I think the CBN has given a new regulation, but because CAPES is involved, and in the interest of stability, we allow banks to phase out the analog POS. The digital POS would even allow merchants to see on their POS that a transaction has actually failed and collect those failed transactions, sent to their bank to return to the buyers. Reason why when you complain to your banks, transactions are not reversed immediately is because they need to get the consent of the merchant to be sure that goods were not released. But the major or some other problems are that rather than use POS, buyers often do transfer. And when you make transfer to a seller or a merchant, because some merchants do not want to pay the, MSC, merchant service charge, they would encourage you to do a transfer. Transfer is tougher to reverse because it is seen as a deliberate transaction to the other party. But when it is a POS, you even see it on the transaction journal, purchase. When it's a purchase transaction, it's very easy to contact the merchant. Did you release any goods? This person has been debited. You will say, no, I did not release goods, and they just return the money back. So I think consumer education would continuously encourage people to use their card. Using your card is at no charge to you. It is only the merchant that pays. However, some banks also, because of the big merchant or the transaction volume, I think you reduce the cost for your merchant, right? Mr. Adeyemo or Mr. Adeyemi?
Yes.
Yes, you
So
reduce the
sometimes
cost.
it
Yeah,
happens.
yeah.
Yes, you
So
reduce
at
the
least to
cost.
encourage them to
Encourage.
accept card at POS touch points. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Aisha, for that response. Mrs. Salah, could you have any reactions?
I'm actually learning something new here. I was typing it down there. Transfers are tougher to reverse. That is such a big insight that most consumers don't know. And that's one of the things that we'll be taking away from here to enlighten our consumers more, that there's a need to, the reason why you use your card is to protect yourself. It's a some line of protection also. So I would rather transact with a card than do this direct transfer. Everybody's doing this direct transfer in the open marketplace, everywhere, because people don't want to pay those charges. But if I know that it protects me better, I would insist on using a card. I'm learning that now, and I'm taking that as a takeaway from here. Thank you for that insight.
Thank you, Mr. Achille, for highlighting that. But interestingly, I find that I lean more towards doing transfers because I also feel like I'm protecting myself from fraudulent activities where your card could easily be cloned, and so it feels like doing a transfer is safer. So I wonder if it's to use cards or to do transfers that would protect the consumer better. I don't know if anyone can respond to this. Mr. Salisu, do you want to
From my
comment?
limited knowledge, Joe,
Okay.
I'm not an expert in this area, but from my limited knowledge, I think that more consumers should use a card, because one of the things that you can do with the card, let me tell you what I do. This is what I share with my my consumers. if I have an account in your bank, I open like a savings account, a current account, or two savings accounts. I would have one account that has a card, and the second account doesn't have a card. I would always have an account in the bank that does not have a card. So I can do transfers to the account when I want to use my card. I just move the amount of money I need to that account. That's the way I protect myself. So even if you clone my card or whatever, the amount of money you find in the card will be limited. So my money is mostly in. So that's another way that consumers can do a second level of protection. But cards is easier to track, and cards sometimes offer protection too. If it was a credit card, for instance, credit card transactions are thoroughly protected, even though I would like Dr. Aisha to explain to us why all the banks are canceling their credit cards in recent times. But that's my perspective of your opinion.
Thank you very much. Mr. Salisu, any comments? I would agree with the...
Yes, I mean, I agree with her, and maybe I would like to add on that. So, I mean, Nigeria is a very fantastic country when it comes to digital payments, right? Because there are several options. I mean, you have transfers, you have USSD, you have cards, you have quite a lot of them. Now we are having QR, right? We are also beginning to grow in the areas of scan and pay and all of that. But the truth is, I would always recommend, and I also believe that's the position of CB, just to continually advance the payment ecosystem space. It's whatever works for a customer, right, that you can go for. And I'll give you an example. So if you go to China, which is one of the things that CB did recently, to go to China to study what is happening there around innovation, consumer protection, and fraud prevention, you will see that I won't say 99, but maybe over 90% of their transactions are on QR, and it works for them. Transfers, they probably don't even understand what transfer is. If you go to maybe, the likes of Dubai and, some of those countries, it's scan and pay, and it works for them. So why I said Nigeria is interesting is I think we've been blessed to have a lot of payment options, and that's why you see our digital payments advancing at a very exponential scale. So for you, Chinasa, if it's transfer, and I won't just say that go with the transfer. There are some banks and new banks or digital apps that will also give you cashbacks for transferring, meaning that you get a portion of your money back. So if that is even one of the reasons why you're using the transfer, albeit, yes, card is, again, like we've all agreed, seems to be the foundation of that good digital payment process where a lot of things can be tracked. There are audit trails, is easily reversed and all of that. But at the end of the day, because we are in an ecosystem where there are options, I will always recommend that please, whatever works for you, go for it.
Fantastic. And I think, thank you so much. And you echo one of guests' comments. She says both channels are safe. I think Aminati Yasele, both channels are safe for transactions. We just need our consumers to practice safe banking and be cautious about the channels and platforms that they transact or transfer to. Fantastic. I completely agree with that. Okay, just looking at the time that we have left and just being mindful of our promise that there would be a live Q&A session. We would now I'd like to move to the Q&A from the audience. I think that my colleagues should have collated some of the questions, but I also understand that some people have their hands up. We're not able to have people speak, but if you type your questions and then I can ask the panelists. So Emmanuel, do we have any questions, or Oluchi?
Hi, Chinasa. Yes, we do.
Yes, we do.
Okay, Oluchi, please go on.
Okay, thank you, Chinasa. Thank you, Emmanuel. So the first question here says, the Consumer Protection Regulation 3.2.3 prevents banks from throwing consumer accounts into debit as a result of non-credit related fees or charges. What happens if the customer, after several notifications, fails to fund his account for the outstanding charges to be taken by the bank? What are the options open to the bank?
Do you want me to answer that? Okay,
yes, please.
Okay, thank you very much. Very good question. The bank system should have been configured in a way, this is the regulation, in a way that at every point when you do a transaction and there are transaction charges that apply, the bank should have screened out that transaction fee or charges or cost such that the available balance that you can always take in subsequent transaction would reflect what is actually available to you, less the bank charges. So because the implication of throwing your account into debit means there would be penal rate. Penal rate is massive, up to 45%. Am I right, Mr. Adeyemi? And you imagine if your account is thrown into a 3,000, 5,000 debit and you do not pay in less than 5-10 months, that money can spiral to hundreds of thousands because it's a default rate. Again, the bank can also watch list you on CRMS, when then it means that you cannot even have access to genuine credit. It's also a bad point for you anytime you want to take credit. It's already affecting your credit profile. And so this is the reason when your account is thrown into debit without unauthorized debit, that is what it is, please escalate to the bank to put it in proper shape. However, if that is not done, please let the CBN know. And I think, Mr. Adeyemi, I hope all banks are complying, or your core banking app has the facility to ensure that you separate the bank fees from the available balances of customers.
Yes, all banks are complying, and it's one of the works that it does across the senior level. So sometimes it's tiered, and what I mean is some banks look for when there is available balance in your account to take that money at once. While some banks prefer that for every transaction, right, they take whatever is meant to be taken. And we've seen that customers don't really complain once they understand the pattern with which the banks is debiting that money. And banks have also gone ahead to be very open when it comes to communication, so that the customers understand, when these debits are happening. Through their CX teams, they send emails, they send SMS, and I think that with that, they're able to manage, whatever potential reaction that some of these customers may have.
If I may add to this, I think maybe the major issue from the consumer's perspective is we don't understand why an account that I have not been using, there hasn't been transactions going on it, keeps getting debited for quote unquote standard bank charges. You remember the question that the person asked, said when those charges are not credit related, when they are like fees or bank charges, monthly charges, and quote unquote. This is what eventually turns those accounts into debits. And before you know it, the person is carrying a debit balance, and then you start putting the penal thing that you are owing us this money. So every month we charge you for owing us that money. What I think we need to address is there a way that the banking sector can ensure that if there is no transaction on an account in a month, there's no charges to pay? Because you said the charges I pay are transaction charges. So if I don't have any transaction on it and there's only 10 naira or 50 naira left in my account, then that account shouldn't be debited for anything. When the owner of the account starts transacting business again, then there is a basis for charging them. But what we find is there's just this automatic charge of maybe 10 naira or 50 naira, whatever it is that is standard as this is the charges that the banks take. And irrespective of whether the account is being used or not, those accounts are going on. So those are the ones that I think is the majority where consumers really complain. Few people complain when we charge them bank charges for services that they are enjoying. If people complain when I left 5,000 in my account and every month it reduces, though I have not done anything, I've not put any additional money, but every month that 5,000 keeps going down until it becomes minus 1,000. So that's what I think you need to help us address that.
Thank you, Mrs. Ajalo. Before I let you go, Mr. Salisu, I have a reaction to that, and it's just based on my own experience working as a product manager in the bank, and also using financial banking service outside of Nigeria. So there's also what they call the account maintenance charge, and I don't know if you want to chalk that on the transaction fees, but I had a bank account in South Africa that I didn't use for 3 months, and there was money left in it, and at the end of the third month, there was nothing left in that account. And I wasn't upset because I understood that the charges for even, maintaining an account that the bank just has to debit. So I wonder if that's the case and if it's a communication gap for us in Nigeria. So people know and have a clear understanding that if I leave 5,000 naira, there's a monthly maintenance fee that the bank will charge, whether or not I carry out a transaction. And so that they're well prepared for it. Or because it just looks like random transactions or random fees. I get that from one of the banks. I just get alerts of several charges. I don't even know what it is a lot of the time. And I know a lot of people complain about the same. So I think it's important to be clear on what those charges are, and maybe delayed debits are also not encouraged, because then they say they're debiting at the end of the month, and then you just get a list of different charges from your account. So Mr. Salisu, please.
Before Mr. Salisu answers that question, I need him to clear that this account you're talking about, usually they are specialized accounts like that. When you open this account, based on the fact that we are giving you this benefit, we will be charging you monthly maintenance fees. In Nigeria, we have a flat monthly maintenance fees across board. It's not on special accounts. So maybe what we may need to do is start to qualify our accounts along that line, so that when I sign up, I may be paying a little bit more, but I know that I will not be charged any monthly maintenance fees. Do you understand? Or I'm getting this other benefit on this particular account, but I have to maintain a minimum balance, or else I will get charged monthly maintenance fees. This is a situation where standard, even by CBN directive, banks are allowed to charge monthly transaction charges. And these monthly transaction charges are applied across board. Do you understand? So maybe they can help us explain that, so that consumers might be better enlightened as to what is actually operating in our system and how can we protect ourselves to ensure that we're not caught in the
Okay. Let me look for the easiest way just to, clarify this. So based on that question, so that we can nip it in the bud, I think that particular account should be investigated, because ideally, if you don't use your account in a month, the way all banks' core banking infrastructure has been built, you are not being debited. You shouldn't get, the SMS charge. You shouldn't get, maybe interest expenses and all of those things. So you shouldn't be debited. In fact, if it's a savings account and you don't withdraw more than 3 times, you will be credited. Like, you will get, the monthly interest income just for you keeping your monies with the bank and not taking monies out. So I think, first of all, that account should be investigated. But what I want to say is that, yes, there are different types of accounts in banks. And already you know what kind of charges you'll be paid to run those accounts. But to keep it in simple terms, if it's a savings account, no matter what it is, there are really no charges. But if it's a corporate account or a business account, and then you begin to talk about the account maintenance fees, AMF, and all of that. But even at that, based on the relationship with your bank, what the regulators have allowed banks to do is, customers can be free to negotiate that part. Because we've seen instances where because a customer is maybe a high net worth customer and is really transacting with you, they can tell you that rather than take this percentage for AMF. This is what I'll pay. And between the bank and the customer, they will agree. So that one is also there, but it happens majorly on the business or the corporate accounts. But by and large, what I think, consumers should know is that for every account that they are opening, whether it's a savings or a current or a corporate account, questions should be asked. If questions are not asked, there's a possibility that there could be charges that you won't understand. I'll give you an example. So, when people run accounts, a lot of people don't understand. Well, they do understand, but I think there still has to be some sort of digital literacy around the electronic, EMT, the electronic, money transfer levy. A lot of people just feel that, oh, why are you debiting me 15 naira? Why are you and they don't know that the regulation had actually said once you receive an inflow of 10,000 and above on your account, 50 naira will go to that levy. And I know that is one of the pain points a lot of customers have always asked, across banks, and CB tracks some of these things. So I think digital literacy is also important when it comes to charges. We will factor that, around our own CBI Academy structure where we empower, the frontline personnel within the industry. But I think also from a regulatory standpoint, working with banks, this sort of information should be really, really passed to the customers. Account opening forms don't tell you those things. They just tell you what you are getting in terms of the product or services. Maybe it's high time we start putting those kind of things on our account opening packages, whether digital or even traditional, so that the consumers, who are the reasons why we run this business outfits, are totally aware of some of this information and they won't feel cheated, at any point in time.
Can I come in here, please? I'll just write a rider on that contribution.
Please go ahead, Mrs. Adinka. Thank you.
Adinka from FCCPC. I'm so grateful for this comment because it's been the big deal for me in ensuring
I think we are struggling to hear Mrs. Adinka.
consumers
Yes,
have
Mrs. Adinka,
not
we're
have this information, technical information about how banks operate. Consumer.
Okay.
I hope I can hear you very well, but I just want to land this because
Okay, we can hear you now. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Yes, I just want to quickly land it, and mind me for speaking very fast. It's because I'm trying to push in as much before the network yanks me off. Right. This is a very important conversation. Consumer literacy in the financial space. And it's even becoming more cumbersome. I don't think it's too much. And indeed, the FCCPC guarantees this. The right to information in plain and understandable manner. It's not only plain, it must be understood by the consumer. So we as regulators, business operators, you bring in your products. You need to put it in an understandable manner. If you have 1 million charges with respect to an account, you must bring all the 1 million charges to the customer at the account opening time. That is, no matter how that form is, what is critical is not just to have your signature, your KYC, your name, your data. You must also tell them we have 1 million charges to take with respect to this account. And these charges are backed by regulation this, because the truth about all of these charges, according to banks, is CBN regulated. So if the regulator has put those charges forward, you have a duty as a business operator, whether financial or otherwise, or fintech, to make all these available to the customer at the account opening period. Now, okay, not all, some of these regulations also come up on the go. Immediately that these regulations are rolled out, you need to bring that conversation in a plain and understandable manner to your customers, right? And they understand the implications of all of these charges on their account and can take informed decisions on how they want to proceed. Because you find out that sometimes some of these charges, some banks are able to find business models that allows them to be able to take some of these charges on themselves. There was a time ATM was hello. They will not be charging you if you use them. Can you hear me, please? So they were not, some of them were not taking those charges as a business model. They were absorbing it to say to customers, we care about you. So is tied to consumer choice PC. Give him all the information, let him make an informed decision on what product to purchase or not to purchase, or to continue with or discontinue. He is the consumer, he's paying for it, and he should be able to speak. And also, businesses should be transparent. They should be able to put this forward so that nobody is twisted or ambushed.
Okay, I can't seem to hear Mrs. Adeyinka if she's still speaking.
At any point in time, when the consumer also should be put on notice. Must have an exit choices as well. Hello? Can you hear me? Am I still connecting? Hello? I think I'll stop here.
That's fine. Thank you so much, Mrs. Adeyinka. Unfortunately, we couldn't hear part of what you said, but I think largely we can hear the passion in your voice and the putting the customer front and center. I'm mindful of the time. We're 2 minutes above the time that we scheduled for this engagement, and I'd like to just crave your indulgence to give us another 5 to 10 minutes to take some of the questions that we have, and possibly have some of our audience members ask their questions directly. So the next question that I see here, there's one here from Andrew Enebeli. With the increase in fraud incidents and attendant increase in complete...
on this issue, but hello, sorry, I'm so sorry, please.
Your network is not good.
The Consumer Protection Regulation has addressed most of the issues raised by...
Sorry, Mr. Adeyinka, because of time, we're not able to hear you clearly. And so if you can type...
And indeed, I must say so. It's the implementation that we're talking about. The industry has to...
Sorry, Mrs. Adeyinka, I will have to ask that you please type your comments because we can barely hear you. I apologize.
Okay.
But just also to be mindful of time.
I'll send a chat.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so I'll just take Mr. Andrew Enebeli's question. With the increase in fraud incidents and attendant increase in complaint.
I'll do that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so with the increase in fraud incidents and attendance increase in complaints eroding trust in the financial system and affecting digital adoption adversely, in order to deter fraudsters, when can we begin to leverage the robust... If my colleagues can just please help mute Mrs. Adeyinka's mic so that, because I think there's a delay. Okay, with the increase in fraud incidents and attendant increase in complaints eroding trust in the financial system and affecting digital adoption adversely, in order to deter fraudsters, when can we begin to leverage the robust security structure in the telecom sector with the ONSA created during the NIN-SIM harmonization project that enables the identification, tracking, and apprehension of the growing menace of fraudsters? I don't know if anyone wants to take that question again, or did you get it, and who would like to respond? So fraud incidents and leveraging the robust security structure that ONSA created during the NIN-SIM harmonization project.
Okay, I think the question is well understood. Again, the power is in the hands of the consumer. Unfortunately, technology doesn't work like the physical visit to the bank. In the era of physical visit, you would issue a check or a withdrawal slip or a transfer form. There is camera to show you came. Your signature is validated and revalidated. Your picture is compared to what is on the screen. But in the era of technology, it is the financial PIN code that is used as your authentication, and which is the reason we said consumers should guide against the use of free Wi-Fi to download financial information or to put forth their financial information. The USSD also has its own challenge, which is that your PIN code appears in plain text. So we're working with NCC and the International Telecommunication Union to see how this can be encrypted. World over, there is no technology for it. When you use your USSD, all your transaction is still open. And I think from the telco side, they see the route, but of course they said there in millions of words, but you never can say so. But because the real security provisioning for technology is that all communication protocol must be encrypted. So we're also working to ensure that I think the use of also smart device, so that when transaction is not coming from your hand, it will be like another level authentication. I think in other jurisdiction where you mentioned, they have all of this protocol. That's why they can do tap and go and so many without necessarily you putting your PIN. In Nigeria, we enforce the PIN because at the last engagement, NCC confirmed that over 70% of our phones are still feature phones. So, but ITU is also working with us under the financial inclusion working group committee to see how they can ensure the feature phone also come with unique MSIMS, like a unique device identity. So that would also serve, even when your PIN is properly referenced and is not coming from your device, your bank will do another level authentication before they allow those transactions to go. I would continue to work with, and again, I think there should also be punishment for inaction, which is what the BVN has done. But what we see is, are we fully reporting those fraudsters? CBN or any regulator cannot do it alone. When there are inaction, there are issue of fraud, we have protocol or regulation for investigation. And when the culprit is found culpable, the BVN of the fraudster can be watch listed, and this will be seen across all the banks. And I think if we work with other sector, it should also be taken beyond the banking sector, where people know that they will be held responsible for their inaction. I think it serves as a discourage for them to keep taking money from other people. But we also must be mindful. Even as at last night, I got a call. I have transmitted that number to MTN, where someone is saying they're trying to refund excess charges on my account and that I should give them some numbers on my card. Sometimes you get calls that you have won on Temu, and the person gave me my date of birth. I shall born on these days. And people will be wondering, how did he get it? They can get all of these things on social media. They go to your profile where people say happy birthday. So that way they know your date, they're not getting it from BVN or from any bank. So I think we should also reduce too much information on the social media that way. But notwithstanding, banks must also be active in ensuring that there are behavioral monitoring. If you see transaction coming from Aisha in Abuja and suddenly after 1 hour or less than an hour, you're seeing another pointer from Kanu, Even if I have a private jet, I shouldn't be. So that regulation is also in place for banks to do second level authentication or validation before they authorize. That's why sometimes when you do transaction, you will see it is put on queue. It's just to be sure it is you and so on and so forth. So we need to all help each other. We'll continuously advocate, but we have instances where we have even told consumer, do not invest in a company. And I'm sure it's in the public. You can Google it. They're saying, come, banks cannot pay me this, and this company is paying me this. And what did we see? The whole money went down the lane. So, but notwithstanding, we'll continue to educate, provide support, and work with our banks to ensure a secured and very friendly, consumer-focused banking system. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Aisha. Two things. It takes very briefly, because we still have a couple of questions and we're just well over time.
Thank you. I just wanted to add to what Dr. Aisha said around the area of surveillance. You know, I was telling Emmanuel when we were speaking yesterday that there's a trend that's going on in the financial sector right now. If you go on Facebook, there are so many experts in investments, in shares and all that, who are calling everybody to come on. We tell you which shares to buy that can make you triple the money for. I actually joined two. I'm on their case right now. And when I got into one, I found out that the people claim that Dr. Yemi Kale is that they represent the NGX, that they are the NGX investment advice platform, and that Dr. Yemi Kale is the one who's giving them information about this. Dr. Yemi Kale used to be a statistician there, whatever. He is now working for KPMG. But these people claim that he is working as the chief investment officer of NGX. When we checked the telephone number of Dr. Yemi Kale, he's based in the UK. And a whole lot of Nigerians are joining that platform as I speak. I'm still there because I want to see it through. I want to actually understand what the fraud is about. But this is how many Nigerians are being drawn into these things. We need CBN and the the NCC to do a lot more work in surveilling these people. They claim that Facebook has verified their platform. So we need to ask Facebook, how did you verify such a platform that is now made available to everybody? Once they can pay Facebook money for advertisement, it's okay. So these are areas where we can at least protect. You know, my concept of consumer protection, before I stop talking, is that consumer protection is usually more, there's two levels of it. There's the preventive level, and then there's the reactive level. We have majored a lot in the reactionary consumer protection. When the thing happens, we start working on how to do it. But the greatest systems that have strong consumer protections are the ones who act at the prevention level. We must be ahead of those things, because most of the Nigerian consumers we're trying to protect, many of them don't even have the understanding or the awareness or whatever. And you can't blame them. Everybody is looking for how to make an extra buck. So it's easy to fall into these traps. We shouldn't leave that responsibility alone to them. We should have surveillance teams who are scanning for these people so that we can actually shut them down. That is proactive, so that we prevent and we reduce the number of these platforms that are available for consumers to walk into. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Salako. That's very instructive, especially around the preventative measures. And it's interesting that a platform like that exists with credible personalities that would make it appear like it's truly legit. And so, yes, so very important to make sure that people actually do their homework, or at least have channels where they can sense check or cross-check these platforms. Okay, so I will take this last question from the Q&A chat box before I then invite at least two people to ask or make comments on the conversation so far. This question is from Chisom Orakusi, and she says, I hear and see comments regarding financial institutions bearing the burden of the cost of the sinking fund. However, it's important to note that financial institutions also have unfair costs being imposed on them. For example, the recent directive of the Financial Reporting Council to pay annual dues ranging from 500,000 naira to 25 million naira which is really outrageous. As a microfinance bank, we're required to pay these dues, and this cuts into the funds we can use to lend to our customers and drive financial inclusion. This is an example of what financial institutions are encountering. So what can be done to reduce this cost on our part while ensuring that we're still being receptive to our customers' needs? So I think, Dr. Latimo, this will go to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, and thank you to the person who escalated. I think they can do a formal letter. The good news is that the MFB have association, or the NAMBUT, that's Association of the Nigerian Microfinance Bank, and so on and so forth. So they can do a formal letter, because we need to know, is this specific to a set of microfinance or a tier of microfinance, or is the entire subsector under that sector? So we will deal with it with the appropriate authority, and we can come back on this. Thank you. They have a primary supervisory department, so please do engage. You can copy me so that I bring the director of that department to date. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Aisha. And I like the very active response. So do they have your email address, do I assume, or do you want to share that here, or how do they?
Yeah, they do have all our
They should.
email address.
Fantastic.
Again, on the CBN website, you will see the contact, who your director is, and the contact of each department director. And I'm sure they have been relating with their departments. So it's
awesome.
not, yes, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, so that's for Chisom Orakosi. So I will now have the first two people to raise their hands. And what I'd like you to do is introduce yourself very quickly, just your name and what sector or organization you represent, and your question, very direct and succinct. I see Jennifer Odunze. Jennifer, please go ahead. Jennifer, are you able to unmute your mic? If you're not, Tunji. Okay, let me see if there's any other hand up. Jennifer, I can't hear you if you're speaking. Okay, I can't see other hands up. Emmanuel Oluchi, can you tell me if there's any other hand up that can come up to ask their question? And if there are no hands, so that we can just move
No,
to
there
the
are
next
no
agenda
other hands
item.
up. Thank you.
Okay,
Unfortunately,
fantastic.
Jennifer is speaking, but we can't just hear her.
I can't hear. Oh, apologies. Okay, I think that it's a good place to wrap up this conversation. And to be honest, we haven't covered half or a quarter of the questions that were sent in, and even the ones that the audience have shared with us here. And it's, also evidence that people have a lot of questions. This is clearly an important and useful platform to engage with the regulators and some of the actors in the ecosystem. But I think that at least for the questions that we've been able to push out to the panelists, they've been able to address to a good extent, and we will try and continue answering these questions through our social media handles as well, and plan for the next Q&A or the next town hall so that more of these questions can be addressed. But thank you all so much to my esteemed and distinguished panelists for your time, for taking beyond the time that we allotted to this session to be here with us and answer very important questions from the audience and consumers. So I'll now hand over to my colleague Emmanuel to move on with the agenda items. Thank you.
Hi, Chinasa, thank you so much.
Sorry, please, if you permit me, I think there are major two questions. I'm seeing people flagging it under the chat. That are we saying merchants should continue to use transaction slip instead of the electronic advice? And I think without any misconception, we encourage electronic communication, but in the event of failed transaction, you will need a transaction journal. Even international level, I made mention of the KFC, their system did not give me a print, and that made it very difficult for my bank to track who the processor or the switch is. And so I had to send my sister in that state to go back and take a snapshot of the transaction, because I got a debit alert from my own bank, which was, you can imagine, if I don't live there and I don't have anyone. That's why you will need the transaction journal for dispute reclaim. Then someone mentioned, or several mentioned, that I'm saying transfer is tougher to reverse. Please, no misconception. Transfer to merchant is not a purchase transaction. So it could be a normal transfer. So even when you transfer to a merchant and you didn't get consideration, which is the goods you want to receive, the bank cannot get involved, unlike a POS portion. And why many merchants do not allow you to use the POS is for reason, like I said, charges or for tax payments. But you are at disadvantage if there is dispute issue. He will be a tough one unless the merchant agree for reversal. When you transfer to any account, it is the owner of the account that allows reversal. So that's why we're encouraging the use of any channel that will allow you trigger dispute. But this is an ongoing engagement. We can always open it up for, or LBS, Alfina, can do a further search of what is happening in other jurisdiction. I can bet you in other jurisdiction, I don't walk into Walmart and transfer to their account. I have to pay by a visible, allowable channel of payments. Thank you so very much.
Emmanuel, you're speaking, but we can't hear you.
I'm sorry. Thank you so much, Director, for those insights. And thank you to all the panelists. Because we are spread over time, I'm just going to be very fast. I have heard all, and I can say 7 things that I picked. First is that literacy is very key, and we all have the responsibility to educate, and we can't educate enough. There is need for an independent ombudsman, so long that it's not an additional cost for the consumer who is already weary of the charges and the commissions that he has to deal with. Then, of course, there was a slight touch on fraud insurance. I hear the director say punishment for inaction is very critical, and the constituency we represent is asking, Director Ma, will you be willing to wield the sledgehammer on any provider who defaults or who did not respond within the SLAs that are contained in the regulation? I guess the answer is already out there. So we are expecting MAP, right? And of course, accountability on the side of the FSP to educate, like Mrs. Adenika said, let your customers know what is expected of them. And Mrs. Salako has also said, let's define the categories of accounts and the responsibilities in terms of charges and commission. And I think this is a conversation we need to take further from a policy angle. Then, of course, I hear very clearly we need to collaborate more to be able to succeed in this. And lastly, that we need a consumer protection risk mitigation framework, not the respond, but it should begin with first prevent, then we prepare, we respond, and we recover. So response should actually be the test stage, but prevention and preparation should take paramount. And ladies and gentlemen, in terms of next steps, what we expect, how do you engage the regulator, especially the CBN? As you can see on my screen, there is the email, Consumer Protection Department at cbn.gov.ng, and phone numbers. Please take a snapshot, right, that you can call if you have any issue. But there are steps. First, reach out to your bank with all the necessary information for resolution of the complaint. If you are not satisfied, so the CBN or the FCCPC or the Consumer Advocacy Group, CAFON or CADEF, and so many that are here. And thank you, Professor Chiso Undukwe Okafor, who also joined us, who represents CADEF. If they are not your primary point of call, you must have engaged your providers, and if they fail, you can then escalate. Please do not escalate when you have not exhausted the procedures that are left, that have been given to you Then you need to escalate. Please write a letter to the Director, Consumer Protection and Financial Inclusion Department. Let it be clearly stated and send it to that email. You know we are a FINA. There is also CADEF and CAF on here. If you haven't received response from the CBN after escalation, please let a FINA know, right? We will call another town hall and get the director to come answer why she hasn't responded to your escalation or her team. And ladies and gentlemen, we want to sincerely thank the CBN. Interestingly, so there is a gift from CAFON, right? Your Niger Guide to Consumer Rights and Protection, How to Protect Yourself by our esteemed consumer mama, Mrs. Shola Salako Ajulo, so who has been talking to us. You can scan the QR code and I will just walk you through. It's a physical book, so she's giving it out for free. She has been giving it out for free for long. If you need a copy, please scan the QR code, take a snap now, and enter your details. A copy will be dispatched to you, but you have to bear the cost of the dispatch since you are not buying the book. Otherwise, you can walk into their office, Consumer Advocacy Foundation of Nigeria, and you can pick a copy. So please visit the website www.cafon.org.ng. And for complaint, there is an email you can send to or a WhatsApp number that you can always reach. And lastly, at the end of today, this town hall, we will send two things out. There will be a communique that details the point of actions that we've all agreed to, and a frequently asked question compendium, which we're going to use to communicate all the answers to the questions that were sent. And I can tell you, we received over 200 questions, that were sent in. And by the time we distilled all of them, I think they came down to about 100 and few unique questions spread across 5 categories. So we will provide answers. We get in touch with our discussant and get input, and we publish that compendium, that compilation of FAQ, and share with you. Please, we will also send an evaluation survey to you. Endeavor to submit your response. This is how we will know whether what we have done, we did it well, and where we should improve. We will be having another one at a date that will be communicated, but that will be in Q1 2026. We can't tell you that date now because we need your feedback on how to improve. Once these ones are there, we understand all the issues, what we didn't do right, then we can see how we resolve them and communicate that date to you in Q1. The good thing is that all the discussants that are on this call, they have agreed that we're going to continue this on a periodic basis. I think you should give them a round of applause, right? Now, continue to engage. EFINA is always here. Speak to us on our social media handles. Visit our website, efina.org.ng, which is our primary organization website, and our different initiatives, the Access to Finance website, where you will see information around financial inclusion, access to finance, and all the research that we do. And of course, our Inclusion for All initiative, which really is a proper advocacy platform that amplifies your voice, and that is what we are doing now. And lastly, our Gender Center of Excellence, which is a gender-focused campaign. Anything around women, and when we say gender, it's not just women, but at this time, women are more disadvantaged, so we're more focused on women. Please, ladies and gentlemen, we are sincerely thankful for the time you have spent with us, and I think you have spent additional 30 minutes than we had planned for. And if this conversation was not valuable, I'm not sure you will have remained with us. There are over almost 300 people who joined this call this morning, and it is because of your commitment that we find motivation to do what we do. And ladies and gentlemen, we want to especially thank you for coming. Thank you to the EFINA team. Thank you to our regulators, the FCCPC, represented by Dr. Adeyinka Boladale, who is the Director of Surveillance and Investigation, and our own Dr. Aisha Issa Olatiwon, who is Director of Consumer Protection and Financial Inclusion, not leaving out Mrs. Shola Salako Ajulo, popularly known as Consumer Mama, and of course, CB, Committee of E-Business Industry Head, represented by Mr. Adeyemi Salisu, who is the provost of the academy and group head e-business at Sterling Bank. I won't forget to tell my moderator, the lead of EFINA's advocacy and communications team, Chinasa Collins, who has done a fantastic job. From all of us at EFINA, ladies and gentlemen, want to say thank you and have an amazing weekend ahead of you. Thank you all.
Okay, before you shut down, please, I would like to I would really like to especially thank Dr. Aisha Isa Olatinwo. Thank you so much, madam, for what you are doing in CBN right now. I've been engaging with that department for more than 20 years, and I see actual progress that I think can make life a lot easier for Nigerian consumers. I thank them for the fact that you are able to be on this platform and you stayed through it. It's not normal to have directors do that. They would normally send somebody to represent them because they appear too busy. But because the voice of the consumer is not too much for you, or it's not too, you are not too busy for us, I think that's commendable. So thank you very much. I would take your contacts and try to pass on all the other things that I think can help the department to make life a lot easier for the Nigerian consumer. Thank you so much. I really need to be especially paid. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, man. Sorry, just before you go, there is a second poll. You just complete the poll, then you sign out. Please, Tunji, you can just launch the poll now and let's have it. Oh, thank you. Please respond to the poll. I think there are just 2 questions or so. And do have a lovely weekend. So please, we want to get your feedback on the poll. Yes, awesome. Good. Please go on. Complete the poll. Thank you. We can see, yes, this gladdens my heart that, whatever we did here today has a significant impact. And it gives us the motivation to want to continue. And for those who said there was no change in terms of the impact of what we have done, please let us know and how we can make sure there is a change, because ultimately we want the change to be felt by all.
Thank you, everyone.
Exit once you have completed your poll.
Sign out. Thank you, madam. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma.
Thank you, director. Thank you, director. Please, once you have completed the poll, you can sign out and do have a lovely day. Mr. Adeyemi, thank you so much. We're super grateful for your part of Mrs. CPC. We know network wasn't very friendly, and these are some of the issues that also affect transaction throughput, right, Mr. Adeyemi? So we hope that we have a talk in our next time that's for us. Thank you so much.